What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And today's video, here we are talking about the 6+, the super evolution of V2 Mihawk. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and use my ink bottles on this guy, but hey, if you're a big fan of V2 Mihawk, then absolutely go for it. I think it's honestly a pretty cool ink effect. You know, I'd probably rank it probably a 7 out of 10 in my personal opinion, but either way, before we get into the actual breakdown of Mihawk, like going through content and giving my thoughts and opinions, the pros and cons of the unit in my opinion, I want to go through his ability so you guys kind of understand where I'm coming from throughout this video. So the super evolution of Mihawk is a dex slash a free spirit. He is no class or type combination difference from his previous 6-star form. One thing I will admit though, as I do believe that his 6-star artwork does look slightly better than his 6-star plus, but I digress. Let's talk about his captain effect. So with his captain effect, you need to have 6 slasher characters on your crew, which is very annoying because it means you can't run like one other unit just to give you some utility, which I think would have been really nice for a unit like this, but unfortunately not the case. And it means that if one of your characters are blown away, I think that means that his captain effect will be negated, so that's also quite a big downfall to this character. But either way, he's going to boost the chain multiplier growth rate by 4 times. So with double Mihawk, you get a 16 times chain multiplier growth rate boost, which is very good. He also boosts slasher characters attack by a 1.75 times, which is again, something that should have probably changed, and also reduces damage taken by 10%, and also increases the chances of you landing on dex and int slots specifically. This character does get a limit break expanded captain effect, but it doesn't actually add that much to his captain effect in my opinion. This is definitely a character I would not advise limit break expanding, unless if he is your like #1 favorite unit to use in the game. His special ability though, at a 12-turn cooldown, reduces one enemy's health by 25%, and it ignores everything, which is good. It boosts all slasher characters' orbs by 2.25 for 1 turn, and if you have 3 or more characters on your team that have dex or int slots, he locks your crew slots for 1 turn, and then will boost your orbs by 2.25 in the following turn. And it's not a perfect buff, it is the clock buff, so after the clock expires, you will just get given another orb boost. So you can carry his buff through multiple different rooms. So that's a really nice effect that this character has with their special. In terms of everything else though, it's nothing too crazy. Base stat total boost makes his own strength, quick, sight, and int slots matching if you have a slasher captain. His support effect is 18% base attack added to Zoro, so if you are using a Zoro character, this is the best stat boosting support you can put on him. So I'm pretty sure this is the best stat boosting support you can put on him right now. And that's essentially all he does. He unfortunately does not have slot bind removal, which would have been a nice addition to this unit, considering he is slot based, having very specific slots in order to get a bigger boost, or get the boost in the following turn. So I think that would have been nice as well. But overall, let's go ahead and use him in some content, not some high difficulty content, but just to show you guys how he performs and what kind of team compositions you can use. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into this. So I have a couple of different Clash events and also one of the GARP challenges that you guys are going to be seeing in this video today. So I want to just say one thing before we even get into this video. For those of you who have been around the channel for a while and maybe have come and tuned into my live streams, I've said this many times, but personally speaking, I absolutely hate these types of chain boosting captains. Ones like this, ones like V2 Sanji, ones like V3 Aokiji. I just do not like them at all, and I'll talk more about why I don't like them when we get to the negatives of the character, but let's talk about the positives of the unit. What about this Mihawk is good? Now, first of all, I think that it's fantastic that he is a free spirit unit because he has good synergy with some free spirit characters. You can use Roger, you can use like Legend Cracker, for example, which can give you the color affinity and the chain boosting effects, which obviously chain boosting works very well with a character such as Mihawk, right? So that's at least a nice unit you could use, right? The fact that there's synergy and the fact that he has that secondary typing, whereas, you know, V1 Mihawk, for example, he doesn't have any secondary typing, or even like Halloween Mihawk, he at least has the cerebral class, which does make him a lot better than what he already is. But yeah, I do love the fact that he does have that secondary class. Also, with his super evolution, adding the 10% damage reduction is a huge benefit to this unit. And if you're one of those people that just absolutely adore this unit, you can get an additional 1.3 times HP if you limit break expand this character. So if you are wanting to use him for high difficulty content, you would probably want to go ahead and limit break expand the unit, because if you don't do that, you lose out on so much extra damage, which is going to obviously make a big difference, right? You'll have 1.3 HP and 10% damage reduction. He's going to be ultra tanky, and that's actually a pretty nice combination of effects that this character can have. Mihawk also is his crew's dedicated orb booster. He's a slasher orb booster, and it can last multi-stage duration, which is great. Obviously, you need to have the specific slots in order to do it, but having a 2.25 orb boost that you can stack over multiple different stages, whilst locking those orbs, keeping the orbs that you have over multiple stages, is quite powerful. So I really do like that he has that effect, and it's a lot different to what his original 6-star form was, and the way that they have structured his special with his super evolution, I definitely think is really, really good. But obviously there are still some things about him that I don't like that they could have probably changed to make him a little bit more universal, a little bit more viable in today's day and age, in my personal opinion. I already said, you know, the fact that he can lock those slots. I think slot locking is one of the most underrated effects in the game. I think it's super powerful, and this character has access to it, which is great. Another thing about this Mihawk that I think is fantastic is V2 Zora 6+, which came out not that long ago, and if you have that guy and also Mihawk on the same team, specifically Mihawk as a captain, Zora as a crewmate, that's a great combination of effects, because obviously with Mihawk's captain effect, he increases the rate, the appearance rate of Dex and Int orbs, and if you have those Dex and Int orbs, he obviously gets the buffed version of his special. And then you've got V2 Zora 6+, who has his crewmate effect, which makes Dex and Int slots beneficial to your slasher characters. And then obviously Zora is a multi-stage attack booster. So with Zora and Mihawk together, Dex and Int combination, attack and orb boost combination over multiple different stages is ridiculously good. The only real problem that I kind of have with that combination of units is the fact that Zoro just does like so much damage with his special ability, and in some instances you're going to kill the enemy before you can get your perfects off. Now obviously this video is not talking about Zoro, but you know, just saying if you use that combination of units together, which is the way that you're supposed to use that combination of units, because they debuted together and now both of them have their super evolution, they are definitely much better than their original forms. But you know, it's still, you know, a little bit of a drawback for that Zoro character to kind of make this Mihawk even better than what he already is. But anyways, that's basically all of the positives that I have for this unit. Like, I don't think that there's honestly that much to really go off on. I mean, I guess you could also say that his support effect is fantastic to Zoro characters. Adding 18% attack is ridiculous. And again, if you've expanded him, it adds even more attack to the supported Zoro character. But I mean, outside of that, there isn't really too much I can say about this unit that I would consider to be an ultra positive. I'm not the biggest fan of these types of units. So I guess we'll go into the cons, the negatives that I have with V2's Mihawk with his 6+. Now, first of all, one thing about him that's kind of annoying is he's very hard to hybrid with other captains, and it's just due to the nature of this character's captain effect. The fact that he's a chain boosting captain, which just means that you need to have other chain boosting captains in order to get your highest damage potential, because of the way that it's kind of structured. Mihawk just won't give you enough damage just with one captain. You get 4 times chain multiplier boost and a 1.75 times attack boost, right? So, I mean, if you're stripping away his main form of damage, which is his chain multiplier boost, then you're just getting your 1.75 times attack boost and a smaller chain boost. It's just, it doesn't really help you out that much at all, and it's honestly a very big problem. So I think just due to the nature of the captain is the reason why I don't like him that much. Obviously, the way that he is structured, chain debuffs absolutely destroy him if you get given a negative chain lock. If you get given a chain coefficient reduction, those two in particular absolutely destroy this character overall. I want to quickly just inject that shout out to Chaozu for this team. This was his team composition with some very slight changes, but very great team versus the Raid Brook either way. Getting back to what I was saying, you know, it also means that you can't go ahead and utilize chain lockers for increased damage potential like what so many other teams are able to do, because if you apply a chain lock, it limits the chain capabilities of Mihawk's captain effect. I do really prefer the reversing of polarity with chain boosting captains, kind of like what they did with super type Sabo, where he was a 4 times captain to his color, and then added a 1.5 times chain boost on top of that. So instead of having a huge chain boost and a small attack boost, you have it the other way around. You have your bigger attack boost and a much smaller chain boost, which means that even if you are inflicted with a really bad chain buff that you can't really get rid of, you still have a 4 times captain. You can still do some pretty good damage with that. In my opinion, that's the way that I feel like these characters should be structured from here on out, if they decide to go ahead and make more chain boosting related characters. Another debuff that this character has specifically to this character is he still requires 6 slashes on his crew for his captain ability to activate. That is such a big drawback because it means that you can't just inject that one unit that gives you all of the debuff removal that you will require, and then, you know, because of the way that this character is structured, the first like 1 to 2 characters of your attack chain are not going to be doing that much damage. So even if you had to put one character on just to get rid of debuffs, that really doesn't hurt your team's damage potential that much at all. So honestly, the fact that you still are restricted to having to bring only slasher characters heavily restricts the team compositions and the team building that this character will get access to. So if they removed that condition, especially with his limit break expansion, dude, this character would have been absolutely nuts. Furthermore, another thing that I really do not like about this character is that he is still centered around having to have dex and int slots for his special to become the buffed version of itself, and I think that it would have been better if they potentially changed it. So, you know, change his captain effect, instead of saying, you know, you get a higher chance of dex and int slots, potentially shuffling that to increases the chances of matching slots. And then with his special ability, say like, you know, if this character has a matching slot, if Mihawk himself has a matching slot when you launch the special, you get the buffed version. Or if your captain is a slasher character, you get the buffed version, just so it's much easier, much more streamlined in order to get those buffs. And it means that if you are running non-dex and non-int characters, or you're not running V2 Zora as a sub, you can still do stuff with this character. But because of the way that he is still structured, those are some downfalls that I personally see with this character when you are running characters that are not of those types, or, you know, not running V2 Zora. Also, I feel like Mihawk's viability as a sub is quite limited just due to the other powerful dex or slasher orb boosters that we already have in the game, such as like Kozuki Odin as a really good slasher orb booster, or even the newly released Zorajiro. Both of those characters are amazing for dex or slasher teams, or dex slasher teams particularly, and I feel like just because of that, Mihawk's viability as a sub probably isn't going to be that high. One thing that he does kind of have that is a little bit different from the other powerful slasher or dex orb boosters is the fact that he has the potential to be multi-stage, where you have the clock buff, you can lock your slots, but of course it is still centered around having dex and having int slots. So that is still a little bit of a downfall, but if you are able to make that work, then yeah, Mihawk has some pretty good potential in some other teams moving forward as well. And to finally wrap it up, there's also one glaring issue that I found with Mihawk whilst trying to build teams for various content, and that's the fact that he really doesn't have a lot of good support units. And like one of the really good supports that you usually would apply on a Mihawk to just give you more damage potential, or potentially get around enemy buffs or debuffs, is the support of version 1 Zoro. Version 1 Zoro, if you guys don't know, when you attach it to a Mihawk character when you launch the special, it gives you a 2.5 times chain lock for 2 turns. Now technically that is still good, and you can still use it in a certain manner where you can use it before moving on to a certain stage to get around an enemy's preemptive chain lock. That is still a relatively viable option, but there are still a couple of different problems with that. Number one is that is a Zora support, and you can't run like V2 Zora or any other type of Zora as a sub with that. And number two, obviously it's a chain locking buff, and you know, that's one of the better supports you would typically put on a Mihawk character, and he doesn't get access to that. But just outside of that, there aren't like too many that you can put on him. Super type Shanks, for example, Halloween Shanks is a unit that you could potentially use. You could put on like Legend V2 Fujitora to change badly matching into matching for your slasher characters. I mean, that's a little bit niche, honestly, but there aren't like any good utility or damage boosting ones. I mean, again, there's Raid Zora for color affinity, but once again, it's another Zora character. One of those big predicaments that we've seen with slashers in the past is that a lot of the good ones are either Zoras or they're Mihawks. So again, that's just one of the main issues that we've seen. That's why Halloween Mihawk is so much better, is because he's not centered around slashers. He's centered around a type instead, and you could run so many more characters with him, and that just synergize better. Or even V1 Mihawk, for an example. You know, not really too many people are using him these days, but as a sub, he's still got some really good viability because of how unique and powerful that special is. So these are all the downsides that I've seen with V2 Mihawk. As I said at the start of the video, I'm not the biggest fan of chain multiplier booster captains, but I can understand why they exist, and I can definitely see where the fun is to be had. But personally, definitely not a character I would be opting to use in regular content or in regular play. But of course, if they're boosted in events, you want to be going ahead and using them to get as much points as you can for an event or whatever it may be. But I'm not the biggest fan of this unit. But let me know your thoughts and opinions about V2 Mihawk down below in the comment section. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video today, and if you guys did enjoy it, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.